Obsolete? Not these printers. Some of Prusa's printers are about 9 years old at this point, almost old enough to have finished grade school, but you can upgrade it through 3 generations of printers all the way up to 2025's Core 1. Now for years, this type of obsolescence-defying hardware has been the promise at the heart of Prusa's MK series of 3D printers. Built on open source ideals sparked by the Reprap project, and with an option to ship as a kit as well as an out-of-the-box experience, it's easy to see why Prusa's brand has become synonymous with the maker community. But that might be changing with the new Core 1L, and Prusa's recently announced shift away from the open source licensing model to what they're calling an open community license. My guest from Prusa joins us a little later to talk about that, and we'll also take a closer look at the latest stop in the MK upgrade pipeline, the Core 1, to answer this question. What is it about these printers that sets them apart from the competition? But before all that, let's talk about the repair revolution being powered by 3D printing. If you're not familiar with 3D printers, you might ask yourself, what's the point of owning one beyond printing plastic junk? And it's a fair question, one best answered with a demonstration. This is OpenFunk's Remix Kitchen Blender, a product we recently tore down and evaluated for repairability. It has a total of 16 3D printed components ranging from replacement outer panels to motor adapters and ventilation pipes. The CAD files are available online, so regardless of what happens to this product line or OpenFunk as a company in 50 years' time, you'll still be able to print spare parts for the Remix thanks to the widespread availability of 3D printers. And it's not just OpenFunk. A few repair-minded brands have embraced 3D printing such as Framework, System76, and Adafruit to name a few. We at iFixit also have our own set of print files available. You can print yourself a kit box frame for your Mako toolkit, a replacement battery pack receptacle for your fix-up power station, or even a spudger made of whatever kind of filament strikes your fancy. And then once you get into modeling, the possibilities are endless, because a 3D printer places a miniature manufacturer in your home. For repair, it's proving to be an incredibly useful tool. But make no mistake, if you choose to buy one, it'll be one of the more complex tools you'll ever own. That makes the maintenance and repair of this particular tool extremely important, and it's also where Prusa tends to have an edge over the competition. The 3D printing market is a multi-billion-dollar industry, and it's no longer limited to product designers and makers. In fact, if you're into fixing your own stuff, maybe you're into drones, maybe you're an engineer or a teacher, you might find one of these machines on your table. They are complex tools, and picking the right one is going to save you a lot of time and headache down the line. So today we have Alan Puccinelli, aka Pooch from Prusa Research, here with us today to walk us through their machines, some of the competition, and some of the common maintenance and repair items we might see. So Alan, why don't you tell us a bit about yourself?
Shram, it's awesome to be here. Thank you so much for having me. I head up strategic partnerships and business development. I get to work with a lot of awesome creators like yourself on projects and events at Prusa. Man, it's surreal to actually be here in the iFixit lab. Thank you for having me again.
Tell us a little bit about Prusa's approach to upgradeability, sustainability, and repairability, especially where your machines are concerned.
I mean, it's in our DNA. Like Joe Prusa from the very early days, like was part of the Reprap project, which is like the open source 3D printing project for making printers that make more printers. So inherently, they have to be able to easily be worked on, upgraded. Like that was the project. It's so very important that we continue to live on in that space, and I think that's pretty obvious in the choices that we make on the products that we develop. We know we're not the cheapest on the market, but we've always prided ourselves on having a path to not being part of the planned obsolescence space, right? We want you to feel like you're investing in something that you can build upon, upgrade, work on, uses common components that are accessible off the shelf. Oftentimes, if you look at our website, you see the entirety of the BOM in our spare parts catalog. It is never a question if I can get a part, and we like it when they buy them direct from us because we know we can certify and warranty and stuff appropriately. But a lot of these are open parts, fans, common blowers, things that you can get off the shelf that are used in plenty of other projects.
And in terms of upgradeability, again, this device here, the MK4S, what percentage of parts would you say are directly salvageable for someone wanting to upgrade? Because you sell an upgrade kit. If you own the MK4S, you can get a Core 1 upgrade kit.
So I personally have a Prusa print farm, and I've upgraded now from Mark III to Mark IV to Mark IVS to Core 1. So I've been through this. I've lived it. And there's a dramatic leap going from this to this generation, right? The kinematics are completely different. We talk about Core XY versus what we know as a bed slinger layout. This is just the tail end of that path, though. This is the Mark IV series, Mark III, Mark II, and even Mark I. Like, if somebody had one and wanted to go through that upgrade path through, they could, and there are people that have. Whether it's worth your time and energy to do so, and what you're going to choose to do with the parts that are left over is certainly up to you, but they are very usable parts, and we've seen very, very creative uses of the stuff that doesn't get used for the upgrade to create other projects.
Well, with that, should we dive into some of these machines? Let's take a look at what Prusa makes, and you can walk us through the gear.
Yeah, let's do it. Okay, I'm going to show you guys one of the most common maintenance tasks on our Prusa Core 1 series, and that's a nozzle replacement. So I like to take off the plate here so I can access the daughter board that allows me to disconnect the thermistor and the heater. So I'm just removing these Molex connectors at the top for the thermistor and the heater. It's just 2 wires, and routing it out of the channel. And then we've got 2 thumb screws that we loosen, and that will allow us to drop the whole heater assembly down. As you can see, we've got a silicone sock installed over it to protect everything, but I'm gonna just take that off, and that gives me access to the nozzle here. Obviously we do this when the whole thing is cooled off. And then I'm gonna take my new nozzle, and we do the whole thing in reverse. Just finger tight on each of the thumb screws, making sure our wires are back in there, nothing's being pinched. There we go. Tightened. We've got a new nozzle. One of the nice things about the Nextruder assembly is that you have access to the gearbox here right up front, and I can actually just pull it up and work on it in here. So I've unloaded the filament and snipped it, moved it clear, and if I was clearing a jam, certainly I can open the idler and be able to look into the side over here, and then if I need to go deeper, it's just 3 screws. And right here you can see how our nice extruder assembly all goes together. So you're seeing the back side here, but if I flip it over, you can see, much like the inside of a power drill, something it uses a very similar assembly. Just basic lubrication inside the planetary gear set. And that gives me very clear access to the filament path right here. Lets me see oftentimes if anything's been grinding, I'll get a lot of like buildup, so I can get in here and sweep that all out, make sure it's nice and clean. While I've got the extruder assembly open, I always like to take the opportunity to add a little bit of lubricant. Never hurts to have a little extra lubrication in there. And much like tightening a wheel on your car, we do kind of a star pattern of tightness. One point to note, there is, anytime you open up the gearbox, there is a calibration in the software that will run, takes 10 seconds, where it will self-calibrate, self-align, and tell you how to tighten the screw pattern and stuff back in there, but it's very easy. And just close up our idler door, and we're done.
Despite this wildly successful community-driven model, things might be changing at Prusa. Why? It boils down to how the open source model allows competition in China to create functional copies of Prusa's hardware and software for a fraction of the cost in materials, time, and R&D. That's not to say competitors like Bamboo aren't bringing their own innovations to the market. The X1 Carbon, for example, cleverly utilizes LiDAR for automatic flow calibration, and Bamboo were the first to introduce their novel nozzle cleaning solution. And while the everyday maintenance items on the X1 Carbon, mainly the nozzle components, are just as easily replaceable as those on the Prusas, Other repairs are a whole other story. From the integrated carbon rods that are glued into the gantry module, to the buried electronics that require extensive disassembly, servicing an X1 carbon is inherently a more time-consuming and wasteful process.
So over the years, as we've seen kind of the community shift and the business needs of the company shift, we've needed new tools in place to try to stay true to our ethos of being as open as possible, but then at the same time, like, be responsible to the company, the thousands of employees that work for Prusa now and whatnot. And the open community license is an evolution of that. It's meant to be somewhat of a meeting in the middle and a simplification of a lot of the complexities that we see with a lot of open source licenses out there where they're multiple pages long. We wanted something that was going to be simple and easy to read and to understand, and offer a good middle ground of protections for the company, and yet still trying to be true and to open ethos. We needed, like I said, that middle ground of something that was clearly protective of IP, but at the same time gave reasonable use to people that wanted to participate in open source space. So as an example, on our GitHub page that describes all of it, have a number of examples to hopefully clearly let people know like what appropriate uses are for the license and what aren't.
How do you see Prusa's relationship with the open source community evolving as you go forward with this open community license?
I think it continues to strengthen and evolve. I think there's always going to be the critics in any community where you're never doing enough, or some would say we're probably wasting too much time on that instead of focusing on developing product and IP. And so it's always a tough space when you're participating in an open community, because there's a wealth of opinion out there. Absolutely. In terms of what you should do. But our goal is to show that we are indeed putting the effort in and hoping that the community will, and they do, see and still have faith and participate in this. And now they can use our license for their own projects as well. It's not just limited to 3D printing. Anybody can use the new open community license as a means of being that middle ground of protecting your IP, but at the same time still encouraging development.
How we're pulling in larger names. Phillips gets a special shout out here. Phillips, the company that makes shavers, has started a project with you guys. Can you tell us a little bit about that? What that project is called?
I'm glad you brought that up, because I brought something. Hold on a second here. And it occurs to me it's probably about time we gave you a shave here. This is
look at that.
This is a Phillips project that we collaborated with them on, and so they gave us a lot of their little components, and some of our engineers in house said, we can make that printable. And it's so funny because looking at this, if you were to hand me this 10 years ago when I first got started in 3D printing, I'd be like, I don't think I would attempt printing that, or it would not come out nearly as crisp and clean. And we really, in Phillips' eyes, knocked it out of the park. It was a fantastic partnership, because I don't think they were expecting this either. And so for them to be able to say that we have files that they can give their end users, like, oh, you broke your guard, here, you can just print a new one. And we're seeing a whole new generation of people appreciate the fact that it's I don't have to figure out how to order one from Phillips. I can just fire up my 3D printer and get a good result.
3D printers aren't a universal solution. They have limitations and won't solve every repair challenge, but they play an increasingly vital role in enabling localized, resource-efficient repair. Some parts are too specialized or low value to manufacture and ship globally. Others might never be stocked. That's where 3D printing excels, letting repair technicians create exactly what they need right where they are. The Prusa MK4S and Core 1 both embody this vision of repair. That's why the maker community is concerned about the shift away from open source and the loss of the DIY build kit on the Core 1L. Because of this, Prusa might have lost the support of the open source purists in trying to outsmart the copycats on the global market. Still, we see a lot in their approach to repairability that's worth applauding. We don't have a repairability scorecard for 3D printers yet, but if we ever make one, you know we'll be looking for parts, manuals, and repairable design. Both Prusa and Bamboo compare well on parts and manuals, but Bamboo does miss the mark set by Prusa's unique commitment to user-printable components, highly modular design that favors repairability, and the perpetual upgradeability offered by their machines. We also applaud Prusa's push for major brands like Phillips to release printable parts that empower people to fix their own stuff. Now we just need Prusa to make sure they hold that same line, keeping their own hardware as transparent and repairable as the vision they are selling.